Jimmy Carter, King of America. Okay, we're going to do Jimmy Carter, King of America, which those who have actually taken History 172 with me will know is based on like my sort of first experience. This is like starting to actually having students like who have actually encountered these as like the anecdotes in classes. So this is based on like when I was like 3.5 or 4. So like my first memory is actually my sister, who just had her birthday yesterday. Okay, you know, my sister. My first memory, but one of my first memories after that was seeing this guy get off of this plane. Like around the time, like there's this guy, this black turban. I've later realized was the Ayatollah Khomeini. And so there's this other guy who didn't have the turban on who like got off this like plane, and I said, "Mom, who's that?" And she says, "Well, that's Jimmy Carter." And who's he? And she says, "Well, he's the leader of our country." So I'm about 3.5 years old. What I know about geopolitics is pretty much based on Grimm's fairy tales. So I said, "Oh, our king." Which, when this older guy succeeded him, I just didn't understand at all. That's to say Ronald Reagan, who was visibly older than Jimmy Carter. Was very young. Yeah, I am a child of the 70s, but not by that much. And so this is about that. Jimmy Carter, King of America. I must have been, what? 4 when Jimmy Carter stepped out of Air Force One on the TV set, smiling and shaking hands despite the polls and all the shit that must have been going down. There were exorcisms in Tehran, with "Death to the Great Satan" on the lips of mullahs, while the Soviet helicopters swarmed Afghanistan. But I was 4 and didn't know quite who the hell it was waving at us, so I asked my mom. "That's Jimmy Carter, Quincy." "But who's he?" "The leader of our country." "Oh, our king." I heard the fairy tales and thought I knew the ins and outs of foreign politics. But he didn't look that regal in a suit, like something that my dad would wear to church. No crown or scepter, and what was with the surname? Kings had numbers. Or really awesome titles like Lionheart, the Mad, the Third, the Bold, the Great, or even the Magnificent. I went outside and played catch with my dad, who laughed when I explained what I had heard about our king. But grown-ups often laughed, or so it seemed, at my discoveries that the sky was far too high to reach, even for them. That toilet water swirled the same direction every time you flushed. That snow was frozen rain. I let him laugh, and then my dad and I went in to eat the supper that was always on the table. King Carter was replaced by Ronald Reagan, who had a different last name and was older. I learned about elections, the tradition of voting on a Tuesday for our leaders. All citizens are like us. But soon enough, I heard of Contras out in jungles, islands swarming with Marines, and slavery, homeless people, and laid-off auto workers, and that our TV came from far away, a place whose name I couldn't quite pronounce. You can't go back, of course. The TV set is in some dump in central Oklahoma. Different generations in the yard of the house my mother sold when she dumped Dad. I've also learned that you don't need a king to have an empire, court, and sycophants, while the poor get screwed, and every day the news comes like a tedious joke in sober suits. Straight-faced insanity that we switch off and heat a frozen dinner for.